right, I'll call this meeting to order. This is a legally constituted meeting of the Town of Charlotte Planning Board. Legal notice of this meeting has been posted in the Gates Charlie News and on the bulletin board in the front vestibule of the Town Hall. If you could, please silence and turn off all your pagers and cell phones, and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In the event of an emergency, please use the exits at the front and the rear of the room. We will proceed with the agenda in the order in which it was published, unless otherwise noted. When called, please proceed to the podium, state your name, and if you're representing an applicant, indicate the applicant's name. Review the details of the application. Planning board members and side table participants will address questions and concerns to the applicant or the representative. For the public hearing portion of the meeting, upon completion of comments from the board and the side table, anyone wishing to comment on the application will be heard. If you wish to speak, please wait to be recognized by the chairperson. Stand and state your name and address for the record. Please speak so that all can hear your comments and address all comments and questions to the chairperson. I will now introduce the board members and the side table participants. To my left, far left, is Joe Defendis, Matt Emmons, Al Hellaby. I'm Mike Nyhan, Glenn Hyde, David Cross, and Paul Blozier. Our side table, our planning board counsel is Matthew Piston. Our department manager for the building department is Paul Wanzenreed, and our town engineer is Michael Hanscom. Our recording secretary tonight is Sandra Hewlett. Our first application is the application of Chile MZL LLC, 810 Paul Road, Rochester, New York, 14624 owner, for a preliminary site plan approval and proposed renovations, suite number T-5, and site improvements at the property located at 3170 Chile Avenue, the GB zone. Sir, if you could, sir, could you kind of put it at an angle so the audience can see what you're talking about, including the board? Thanks. Yeah, kind of up here, the way everybody can see it.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Burns from Passero Associates, representing the applicant, Chile MZL LLC. Also with me tonight is Dustin Welch, architect, also from Passero. We also have Stan Glantz and Nick Grock representing the applicant. We are here this evening seeking preliminary and final site plan approval for the proposed renovation and site improvements associated with the next build-out of Chile Square, located at 3170 Chile Ave, Zone General Business. The proposed renovation would establish retail space for Five Below, bringing another national retailer into Chile Square. Over the last few years, we have slowly been filling the space in, as I'm sure you are aware, bringing new and exciting business to the Chile area. Within the building, a 10,000 square foot build-out will be provided for the new retail space. Improvements will be made along their front facade, including a parapet signage, along with providing a new concrete ramp in the existing sidewalk. In the rear of the building, where most of the proposed work is happening, we're going to be removing an existing and deteriorating loading dock that will be replaced as a part of this project. The loading dock will be replaced to meet our project needs, as well as provide a dumpster enclosure to match the existing enclosures behind the plaza. In addition to that work, we'll be working on some drainage improvements in select asphalt areas behind the building, as well as removal of the salt storage area behind the building as well. With regards to landscaping, we will be providing some additional landscaping along that back fence line to help increase the buffer between those adjacent properties to the north. To date, we have been in front of the AAC, in which positive feedback was received. We have also received and responded to town engineering comments, none of which had significant impact to our project, but we would be happy to go over those responses if the board would like. And unless the applicant or Dustin have anything else to add, we'll be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Joe?
No comments at this time.
Your letter stated that the poles in the parking lot have been upgraded to LEDs. I assume that's all the poles in the parking lot?
Can you repeat that?
Poles that are in the parking lot, the light poles, have been upgraded to LED fixtures.
If they have not already, they will be. They have already, correct.
Is that the entire plaza, or is that just, are you adding any wall pack lighting to your facility?
Not to my knowledge at this point.
So back by the loading dock, there won't be any additional light?
Just what is existing, I believe.
All signage per code?
Correct,
No outside storage or sales of materials, I trust?
correct.
No questions? Yeah, I'm good, Mike.
Well said. The new pavement that you're putting along the back, the rectangular piece that's 8 foot wide on the north side, there's a salt bin back there right now. Where is that's going to be removed?
Yeah, it's going
Where
to
is
be
that
removed.
relative to that new piece of pavement?
It's going to be just to the south of the left, or the westernmost portion.
So that's where it is now?
Correct.
It's going to be removed, all right. So the whole turning radius will be enlarged by the entire size of that existing salt?
Correct, and that extra asphalt to the north is for, assuming we have the largest possible truck back there, it just provides an area to bypass while it's parked, so other trucks can get around it.
And then the smaller piece, that's the one that could back into it or drive into it to let other,
Correct, with those two asphalt extensions, we can access that loading dock from either direction, whether it be the west side of the building or coming, from the east.
all right. Do trucks pull in and get unloaded and leave, or do they get left overnight or for a week, or what happens with trucks that come in for product?
I believe they're unloading and leaving immediately.
They unload and they leave immediately? Okay. All right. And this is going to go up directly against Big Lots, right?
That's correct.
And then you'll have one space to the west, one small space left?
Correct.
All right. And the entire front of the store is going to be redone, and that's what we went in front of our AAC for, right?
As a part of this project, that's correct.
Any questions from the side table or comments, or?
Sorry. Can the landlord or the property owner have his electrician check the monument sign out front? It's a strobe effect, and I don't think that's what he wants.
Yes, the edge of it, it says, just the long, tall rectangular part at the end that faces Charlie Avenue is like a strobe light.
That's all.
Okay. I'll now open the public comment. Any comments on this project? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the
Second.
public hearing portion.
Yes.
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 Yes. I also vote yes. This is a retailer, correct?
Correct.
Like a department store type retailer?
Yep.
Okay. For recommendations or for conditions, I have several of the standard ones I was going to add. No outdoor sales or displays outside the building. Any other specific conditions or any other further discussion on this? Pretty straightforward. All right. Seeing none, I'll make a motion to declare the board lead agency as far as seeker, and based on evidence and information presented at the meeting, determine the application to be an unlisted action with no significant environmental impact. Do I have a second?
Second.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
I also vote yes. That was all that I had on this one. Notes. And we did receive a response to our engineer. You don't see any problem with any of the items that were brought up, okay?
Nope, not at all.
Okay. So then for the conditions, the Upon completion of the project, the applicant shall submit a landscape certificate of compliance to the building department from the landscape architect certifying that all approved plantings have been furnished and installed in substantial conformance with the approved landscape plan. Approval is subject to final approval of the town engineer and the Commissioner of Public Works. Town engineer and the Commissioner of Public Works shall be given copies of any correspondence with other approving agencies. The applicant shall comply with all pertinent Monroe County Development Review Committee comments. Planning Board affirms the recommendation of the Architectural Advisory Committee and requests that the applicant comply with these recommendations. Were they finalized, Matt?
Yes, they're pretty simple, I think, from what they,
They're solid, okay.
for this application.
For the Architectural Advisory Committee? Okay, thank you. Building permits shall not be issued prior to the applicant complying with all conditions. Applicant is subject to all required permits, inspections, and code compliance regulations. Applicant to comply with all required life safety conditions and permits from the town fire marshal. Any signage change shall comply with the town code, including obtaining sign permits, and there'll be no outdoor displays or regular sales outside the building. Any other conditions? With those conditions, the application of Chile MZL LLC, 810 Paul Road, Rochester, New York, 14624, owner, for a preliminary and final site plan approval for proposed renovations, suite number T-5, site improvements, the property located at 3170 Chile Avenue in the GB zone.
Second.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
I also vote yes, this is approved.
Six, correct? Clarification, we believe it's D-6, not D-5?
T,
T.
dash, I have T-5.
T-5, sorry.
Is that what it is?
T-6.
It's T-6. Okay, so the application will be for suite T-6. Okay. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. The next application is the application of Royal Car Wash Development LLC, 2851 Monroe Avenue, Rochester, New York, 14618. Rochester WLLC, 655 3rd Avenue, Florida 28, or Florida 28, New York, New York, 10017. Owner for a special use permit to allow a single bay automatic car wash, property located at 3127 Chile Avenue in the GB zone. Also an application from the same applicant. For preliminary site plan approval for a single bay automatic car wash with vacuum stations in the property located at 3127 Chile Avenue in the GB district.
Good evening again. Andrew Burns, Pastor Associates, representing Royal Wash Development LLC. Also with me tonight is Anthony Daniele and Rick Crosa. We are here this evening seeking approval for special use permit along with prelim and final site plan approval for the proposed building renovation and site improvements associated with the new Go Car Wash located at 3127 Chile Ave, property zone GB. This project was in front of the board conceptually a few months ago, so some of this will not be new, but of course we'll go through the whole thing again. The proposed renovation would keep much of the existing site intact with minor modifications as needed. Majority of the work is within the building, in which the building will be renovated to house a new single bay automatic car wash and then indoor vacuums. The indoor vacuums would be a first for Royal Wash Development, so we are very excited for the opportunity to provide that at this site in Chile. A little bit for traffic flow through the site. Customers will be able to enter either right on from Paul Road or from the left or the right on Chili Ave. They will come down the east side of the building where we have enough room to stack approximately 31 or 32 vehicles, which in our experience will be plenty for a site of this magnitude in this location. From there, they will circle south of the building, go north through the wash tunnel. From there, they can either opt to go back into the building to the west to use the vacuums, or they can exit the site either Chili Ave, either direction. They can go right out on Paul Road. We are not proposing any modifications to the existing entrances or site lighting at this time. However, we will be providing some the required landscaping to meet town requirements around the building and some of the new islands. For signage, for the building signage, we are currently proposing to meet or not exceed what was previously showed by Walgreens. I actually think we're showing a bit less right now as far as square footage goes. And for the monument sign, we will be reusing that as is in the same location on Chili Ave. To date, we've been in front of the AAC in which we did receive some minor feedback, and we did provide the revised elevations that they requested. We've also received and responded to town engineering comments, none of which had a significant impact on our project, but again, we'd be happy to go through those responses with the board if you would like. In addition to local municipal review, we have coordinated with Monroe County Water Authority, Department of Health, Pure Waters, Monroe County DOT, and New York State DOT, all of whom have reviewed the project and have no major comments or concerns. With that, Anthony, I don't know if you want to add anything, or we're happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Anything else? That's good. Okay.
Paul, do you want me to address the AAC comments? Sure. So I know you had some questions. I think just to give maybe Paul some clarification, and then we're all on the same page. The issue that we ran into at the AAC meeting was the version of drawing that was submitted and where you guys were wasn't 100% caught up. So when we looked at pictures, Paul, you could tell pretty quickly that some of the things were not on the drawings, right? So I think, Dustin, you guys got that squared away internally, which is why you brought back this. They don't need to come back to us. Jim wanted the cut sheets on the lights, and you had already said and are showing good gooseneck lights. So I think as long as Jim gets those, I don't think we're going to have an issue with them. And then the thing about the signs was because you guys were talking about the signs, and now you're showing them on here. So I think we're fine with that because they're going to have to make application for that anyways. So there's really no changes architecturally to the building. So I don't think we have an issue with that.
Great.
We basically have recommended the existing building as it is without changes, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. And yeah, it's basically just that where you guys are touching the entrances in terms of the aluminum storefront that you're going to match existing, and then that you're using the customers that are going to be open most of the time. Correct. So I guess that wraps up that for me. But then the other question I guess I wanted to go to was some of the stuff you guys submitted here on this sound. If you could just, I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So you've got two documents here. One is the decibel readings of the site, right, the background noise, and then this 8.5 by 11 is measurements taken at an existing car wash with similar equipment. And I'll stop there and you guys can explain to me what this means.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah, and basically what we're showing is that the sound readings around an existing, well, my name's Anthony Daniele from Royal Wash Development, is that the sound readings from an existing facility that is very similar, if not identical, except for the building's a little different, but as far as the machinery inside, it'll be exactly the same, is that the sound readings emanating from the building at the various distances is less than the sound that's coming from the road. The mean readings, obviously, you know, one of the things during a sound analysis is they take the peaks and valleys and even it out. And don't fully understand the engineering of it, but the machinery is far enough away from the road and from the property lines that the existing sound is louder than the sound that'll be coming from the car wash.
And as a part of this project, you guys also are.
I believe there's an existing fence that runs along the border between the commercial and the residential property line, and that is proposed to stay and be repaired if, once we get in there, if there's anything that needs to be fixed. I mean, the expectation is that it remains, and if it needs to be repaired, it will be. Along with vegetation, there's also a significant amount of vegetation along that border line, and there's no plan to remove it or change it in any way.
That's all I've got right now.
Matt had mentioned light fixtures, the gooseneck fixtures. Are there fixtures being added to what's already there?
I believe the fixtures that are being added are specifically for the signage, because the signage is a little different than the Walgreens, different size. But outside of that, the rest of the lighting, I believe, is what's existing.
That they have to be
Dark sky compliant, certainly.
and no spillage over onto the neighbor's property. I think in somewhere in your materials, I saw hours of operation, but I don't recall. Do you have any?
Yeah, so in the application, we wrote 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Monday through Saturday and 8 to 8 on Sunday. Typical hours of operation currently, since COVID, are a little less than that, but that's what they were pre-COVID, so we like to disclose that rather than,
And this is not one of those just you show up and drive through type operations. You have somebody on site all the time, right?
That's correct. It's super automatic, but it does require employees to be there. There's always at least 2 employees on the property at all times. And when we're closed at those hours, the garage doors are closed. The lighting goes off with the exception of some security lighting, and it's just obviously off.
The last thing that I'm not 100% sure of is this inside vacuum cleaning thing. The engineer asked for travel paths and whatnot. The drawings I have just show a big box out that says this is where you're gonna put it, but it doesn't tell me how the people are gonna navigate through there without running into one another.
So I mean, if you can, because it's inside and we're dealing with site, I mean, obviously the architectural drawings will show where the parking stalls are. But when you pull in, you'll actually pull in at an angle, I believe, into the vacuums to the right. So it's kind of like a little parking lot. So you pull in from outside, you pull to the right into a diagonal parking spot, you park, get out, vacuum your car. In the meantime, other cars can either go straight through, back out of their spots and leave. So it's if you can imagine a typical vacuum parking area, it's exactly the same thing except for it's inside.
But when you come out of the car wash, do you have to literally turn and drive back into this?
That's correct. So you would be exiting, and realistically, only about 10 to 20%, depending on the time of year, of people will want to vacuum their car. So most traffic is going to exit the site as they leave the car wash. If you choose to vacuum your vehicle, you'll exit the car wash to the north, and then you'll make a left and go back in the building, and that part of the building is just for vacuums. So there's a wall between the car wash tunnel, because obviously we can't have people vacuuming their car and walking into the car wash. So it's almost 2 separate areas. It is 2 separate areas.
Now, do these people back out and continue on through to an exit? They don't go out the same way they came in?
That's correct. It's
right?
one way. So, yeah.
All right, that's all I got.
So you could stack 32 cars in the double lane, then it goes to 3 areas where you pay, et cetera.
Correct.
That's up like to the front of the building, is that where 32 cars fit?
We do have a stacking plan. Essentially, it's up to this drive lane. So it's just up until that point, because obviously when you get past there, you can be in traffic, you can cross traffic. So 32 completely out of the way of those cross lanes.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, if you're talking about spilling out into the main traffic lanes, you're probably talking 50 or 60, and that'll never happen.
You have 3 lanes, I think, down in Gates, right, on Chalet Avenue?
Correct.
And that's backed up all the way to the start, if you will. You know, where you come in, where you go to the vacuums, or you exit.
That's about 27 cars.
3 lanes are total,
Yeah.
27 cars total? Okay. All right. When you come around, you go through the pay area, you go up, you go into the car wash. There's a hashed area, and I believe that's just a hashed area, right? So if you wanted to exit at that point, you could?
That's correct, and that's designed so that if the car wash breaks down, if there's a problem in the wash, whatever that might be, and it does happen on occasion, we can get vehicles off the property without having people backing up and creating chaos. If there's an emergency vehicles, fire trucks, ambulance, they can access the site without having to get in line for a car wash.
Okay, so just hash marks, no curbing at all in that area?
That's correct.
Okay.
And just traffic cones to deter traffic from entering the wash, obviously, and keeping vehicles traveling towards the entrances.
Okay, and as I recall, is there always somebody at those booths where the automated payment is?
Always, probably not. There's always at least one person as the vehicles enter the tunnel, and there's always a second person on site. Most of the time, more for marketing than for doing anything from a safety or sales standpoint. Those are automated tellers, so they don't require employee interaction. The employees are there, selling people on the monthly plans, and they're there most of the time, but not all the time. Okay, that answers your question.
So if there was an issue within that 32-car stack-up, somebody could go out and open those gates to let people out,
Correct.
is what
Yep.
that's designed to do? Okay. That's all I had for now. Was there additional landscaping? They had mentioned they were going to clean up the landscaping. Were you going to add landscaping somewhere? I thought I saw that on here.
Yeah, we do have a landscaping plan. We do have some new, curved area on here. We're going to get some vegetation in there. And yeah, whatever the town requirements will be given.
Yeah, and I mean, generally, we're going to clean up the site. I know there's a stormwater facility that needs to be rehabilitated. Part of that is kind of landscaping, and that'll be part of it, of course.
Also, in that same area where the cars stack and they go through the pay area, and then there's a curve to get into the tunnel. That's a pretty steep drop-off. Is that a guardrail that you have shown at the end?
Correct. There's an existing guardrail on the top of that.
Okay, all right. Perfect. That's all I have.
No questions? I'm good, Mike.
Side table, questions or comments? Yes, sir.
How many vacuums are in the vacuumed area?
I don't know that we have that worked out yet. If I had to guess,
I could get you that answer. I would guess 8 to 10 stalls.
So, and what's the decibel value of your vacuums? Well, let me backtrack. You gave us that 8.5 sheet that gave decibel levels at the property line or at a distance off of the building. Would that be if every one of those vacuums is running and the wash? Or would that be one vacuum running?
So those are average readings. So I would guess that probably not every vacuum is running in that scenario. Now, what I will say, though, is the way our vacuum system works, so I'll backtrack a little bit, is there is a central motor, like a 40 horsepower motor, that is on all the time. And it's not that loud, but it's on all the time, regardless of how many people are vacuuming. So it's not like there are 8 different vacuum machines, and every time somebody pulls in and starts one, it creates additional noise. Now, engineering-wise, when you take the nozzle out of the holster, it does rev up the engine a little bit, so there is a correlation between how many are using it and how much juice is, how fast it's spinning, et cetera. But it's not like it's going on and off, or it's not off when nobody's using it and on when somebody is. It's relatively insignificant. And these measurements are taken when everything is outside. So the fact that it's in the building, it should be less.
Are they vacuums located to the interior wall as opposed to the exterior wall?
Yes, everything is inside the building.
Right, but if you're looking at your building, right? I'm either parking on the interior wall or I'm parking on the west wall. East wall, west wall. East wall, west wall.
Yeah, it's both.
So you're going to have enough room for,
Correct.
yeah, I'm thinking that's tight too. Okay. And lastly, there's no plans to put lights along the eaves and ridges, as in,
Oh, is it like
Typical.
festival lights?
yes.
Only if you should so desire to have them.
No, I do not.
No, we haven't been putting those on the new builds.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I'll now open the public hearing. Any comments or questions from the audience? Yes, sir.
When I'm done with my
You
car
could, sir, if
wash
you could
in the
just,
evening-
sir, if you could just state your name. Yeah, well, state your name and address.
That's a good question.
Sure.
When I'm leaving the car wash, I'm done.
Yes.
Is that, I know it's a pretty high elevation there. Am I going down a grade toward the road, or is it, is that a level
So there's two ways
exit?
to exit. You'd either go
Right.
back out the way you came in,
Mm-hmm.
from Charlie Avenue, or you'd make a left and go out onto Paul Road, which requires you to make a right-hand turn only.
When you're getting the car washed, does it go into neutral, the car? Okay, so I'm only wondering if, as I'm being exited, if is it a downgrade, if I'm unconscious, I'm not paying attention, I'm fighting with my wife, once in a while.
No, you would never.
That, am I gonna roll out into traffic?
No, if that, I mean, if something were to happen and, you know, your wife has rendered you unconscious, you would end up going straight ahead through these parking spots, and I guess onto the lawn, or in, I don't think that's a curb there, but nowhere near.
Nowhere, there's no risk of
You'd end up here.
rolling out into traffic?
Correct.
Okay, that happened to me once.
Name?
Sir, your name again, sir?
Mike DeVito,
Mike DeVito,
D-I-N-V-I-T-O,
and your address?
2 Black Cedar.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing portion of this application.
Second?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Any further discussion? Side table, any comments? Stalls you'll work out with the building department. It's really not exactly part of the site plan, but it's going to have to work for cars backing up and moving in.
Correct, those will all be
Work
part
with
of
the
the
building department on that. If there are any other questions?
What are you looking at construction time frame wise, do you know? Once you get approvals?
I mean, our intent is to commence construction as soon as we can, so as soon as we can address all comments and get the architectural plans reviewed, approved, and accepted, we would start, so I have unrealistic expectations. Within the next few months, we'll start, and a renovation like this will take less than 6 months. The hope would be about 4 months from start to finish.
So is the biggest part of the project taking the slab out?
Yeah, it's installing the tunnel equipment. A new build from the ground up takes us about 6 to 8 months, and this will take a little less than that.
Anything else? And I do believe I can do special use and preliminary with final seeker together as well as voting. Is that correct?
I think you should do it separately.
Okay. In that case, I don't have any conditions for the special use permit. We'll save those for the preliminary site plan. And for the application of the Royal Car Wash, Development LLC, 2851 Monroe Avenue, Rochester, New York, 146. Oh, hang on a second. We have to do seeker, right? So let's do, that's why I asked that, was we do separate seekers. Let's do seeker for special use permit. I make a motion to declare the board lead agency, and as far as seeker and based on evidence and information presented at the meeting determine the applicant be an unlisted action with no significant environmental impact.
Second.
Yes.
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 I also vote yes. So for the determination for the application of Royal Car Wash Development, LLC, 2851 Monroe Avenue, Rochester, New York, 14618, Rochester W. LLC, 655 3rd Avenue, floor 28, New York, New York, 10017, owner, for a special use permit to allow a single-bay automatic car wash property located at 3127 Charlie Avenue in the GB zone.
Second.
Yes.
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 I also vote yes. The special use permit is approved. And then for the application for preliminary with the waiver of final, the conditions of approval. Upon completion of the project, the applicant shall submit a landscape certificate of compliance to the building department from the landscape architect certifying that all approved plantings have been furnished and installed in substantial conformance with the approved landscape plan. Approval is subject to final approval of the town engineer and the Commissioner of Public Works. Town engineer and the Commissioner of Public Works shall be given copies of any correspondence with other approving agencies. The applicant shall comply with all pertinent Monroe County Development Review Committee comments. Planning Board affirms the recommendations of the Architectural Advisory Committee, requests that the applicant comply with these recommendations. All previous conditions imposed by this board that are still pertinent to the, and that won't apply for you. Building permits shall not be issued prior to the applicant complying with all conditions. The application is subject to all required permits, inspections, and code compliance regulations. Applicant must comply with all required life safety conditions and permits from the town fire marshal, and any signage change shall comply with the town code, including obtaining sign permits. Any other conditions? With those conditions, the application.
He wants us to do secret twice.
You should do
Oh,
secret for this.
right, sorry, seeker twice. So for the preliminary and final site plan approval, I'll make a motion to declare the board lead agency as far as seeker, and based on evidence and information presented at this meeting, determine the application to be an unlisted action with no significant environmental impact.
Second.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I also vote yes. So with those conditions, the application of Royal Car Wash LLC, 2851 Monroe Avenue, Rochester, New York, 14618 Rochester W LLC, 655 3rd Avenue, floor 28, New York, New York, 10017. Owner for preliminary site plan approval with final waiver of final for a single bay automatic car wash with vacuum stations of property located at 3127 Charlie Avenue in GB zone.
Second.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I also vote yes, this is approved. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Forward to seeing what a car wash looks like inside of a drugstore.
Jim Geyer with Castro Associates, GPI.
The application of King Park, 2022 LLC, P.O. Box 170 North Charlotte, New York, 14514. Andrew Vieira, P.O. Box 170 North Charlotte, New York, 14514, owner, for preliminary site plan approval to construct 8 commercial buildings to be leasable contractor storage and/or business at the property located 30 King Road in the limited industrial district. Also the same applicant for a special use permit of the similar character warehouse distribution office at property located at 30 King Road in the LI district.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Bob Winans. I'm an engineer, project engineer with Land Tech, and Andrew's with me also. So we were before the board in August and discussed the project and went over the main parts of it. So now we're back in for our preliminary site plan and special use permit approval. I'll just run through the main pieces of the project. We have submitted updated plans along with the long environmental assessment form. So the board has that now. So the project's an 18-acre parcel in a limited industrial zone area. Andrew does own the property to the north also, so there's 12 acres that will not be developed that is also, owned by them. But just so you know that, we plan on, right now on the plan, we're showing 6 16,000 square foot buildings, 2 8,000 square foot buildings. And what we've tried to do is pretty much max out the site, showing what could be done, what we plan on doing. At this point, the first phase will be, Andrew's going to come in and put his first building up, which will be for his business and his storage and his contracting use. We will put the RPZ in that building, so the backflow preventer for the whole site will be in there. Then we also will be installing sanitary sewer, water mains, everything else to get it ready for the future buildings that are going to be installed. And as I mentioned before, we will be installing a force main all the way up to Roberto Drive and connecting into that sanitary sewer. The water main's right out front, so we can connect to that. The plans do show a New York State DEC wetlands. It's located on the northeast side of the property and kind of goes into the property on the north. We will not be affecting that at all. We're staying out of that buffer. And really the idea with these flex buildings is so that as they're developed, they'll be split off into different studios, sections, which then will be leased to different businesses, contractors that will use them. Some of them will want to have bathrooms, maybe a small sink, whatever, for the employees when they come in, and and areas for storage. And that's another, we are showing close to 300 spaces, parking spaces, which were to meet code. The idea is that we will probably never use all that parking space, but we will be storing materials in the rear of the buildings. So the idea is to create the front of the buildings looking as normal as possible, like businesses, and then any storage or any vehicles will be stored in the back of the buildings to kind of hide that. At the same time, we will be maintaining all the vegetation and trees up to, I think, around 25, 30 feet all the way around the front and sides of the property, definitely the front. You can see actually out there now that's all there, and our intent is not to remove any of the trees in those areas. So. So we plan on meeting all the setbacks. Front is 75-foot minimum from Kings Road. Meet all the side setbacks. We will I guess everything with gas and electric, everything else will be tied in to potentially give these buildings what they need as they're developed. We will be putting a large stormwater management area in the upper corner, and that will help to keep our rate of runoff less than existing at this point. We will be adding water quality bioretention areas throughout the site to meet the DEC water quality regulations. I recognize that this is based on the square footage of the buildings and the size of disturbance, it does kick it into a type 1 action, and that's why we've submitted the long form, and hopefully the board would see fit to declare their intent to be lead agency and start that process for us. The second part of this is a special use permit, which is required for certain uses under this zoning, and what we're asking for is the special use permit to for a use similar to one of the other ones. So there's a list of different items that are in the zoning, and I guess the one we're closest to is warehousing and distribution facilities, and we're asking for that special use permit to go along with planning board approval when the board is ready. So we actually have submitted to Pure Waters to make sure the sewer was going to be okay, and they have given me a verbal approval on that. Water Authority is reviewing different issues, giving me comments on that, no major problems. We mentioned last time we're still working with CSX because we have to cross under the railroad for that, so we're kind of going back and forth, but we're making progress. We're talking to real people now, so it's good. And I did receive the town engineer's comments, went through them, and actually some of the comments regarding labeling dimensions and calling out some things better are on this latest set of plans. So, but we are going to work with Lou Engineers to make sure that those are all addressed, and I don't see any outstanding issues that we could not address through the process here of getting the plans ready to go. So I guess that's it. We'd be happy to hear any planning comments and any questions you might have.
One of the questions was, what are you doing for trash pickup?
Trash?
You're putting, there's no dumpster enclosures here?
Yeah, so it's a good question. We should probably have at least one dumpster per building. And then, because it is going to be contractors running this, they're going to probably generate quite a bit of, if it's pallets or just building material, garbage. So probably we would have to put something in their lease where they're responsible for a lot of it. But obviously it needs to be done strategically where we're not leaving this responsibility up to them and then it's getting out of control.
Right, but those have to be shown on the drawings, and the enclosures, they have to be approved, meeting the town. And would you be doing one per building? Plus it would lessen the amount of parking you've got too. Not that you're hurting for parking, but.
Yeah, so it would affect that. I mean, we have done similar projects where we have just said we would use totes, and each, depending on the size of the business, that we would just have their own totes. But I guess it depends. We could do it. We would show a dumpster location and a detail for that.
I won't have anything.
This is one of those projects that makes me extremely nervous. Looking at the Lou Engineers letter dated October 3rd of 2023, and it's pretty extensive as far as, missing things. I'm sure you can fill in the blanks, but I don't think we're at the point tonight, in my eyes, where I want to vote on this thing until some of this stuff is cleaned up.
Yeah, I
Agreed,
mean,
and we outlined those items for them to do that, so the intention tonight is to start the seeker process.
All right.
So we're going to do a coordinated review, and that will give them time to finish these plans. Quite honestly, is what they need to be done is finished.
Yep.
We see more than a page or two of comments, and that's when we all get a little nervous about giving approvals. You'll be able to address all of those by the next meeting?
I am.
You have all the comments, correct?
Pardon me?
You have all the comments from Lou Engineers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, and I you know, I don't see any issues with getting those addressed. I mean, probably half of them are standard comments that we're well aware that we have to have done before the plans get approved. And then there are some specific comments that regarding the stormwater and some of the site plan issues. But yeah,
Okay.
I mean, that's the goal. So.
Yep.
The force main, is that it?
Yeah.
The force main out at the road, is this a brand-new main, or is it something existing that you're going to attach?
It's a brand-new force main. We put in a new
Brand
private
new?
pump station and a force main up to the,
Has that been sized appropriately, so if the residents across the street wanted to connect to it, they could?
to some extent, yes. I mean, it's really oversized, the 3-inch. I mean, but we've tried to oversize it, not knowing exactly how many bathrooms are going to be in these buildings, but I've tried to be generous with that. I mean, if the town did want to have somebody, you know, I could give those calculations to Mike and show them that, you know, we could add, you know, probably not a major industrial development, but if it was just some of those businesses with offices and things like that, it would not be a problem. Because it's,
Well, across the street, there's like 2 residents, I think.
oh, okay, yeah.
That's what I'm talking
So,
about.
yeah, that would be
If they wanted,
fine.
not for you to
No.
incur the cost, but if they just decided they wanted to go to the Pure Waters and say we want to connect to that
Yep.
main, and they would be able to do that if it's sized appropriately to do that, that's all I was asking.
I mean, other than, as long as it's in a dedicated portion, because I believe if more than 2 properties were on it, it would have to be a dedicated force main.
Got it, okay.
So, which we could do, and like I said, right now, with the 3-inch, with the amount of, you know, our pump station, I think is pumping in about 50 gallons per minute. So it's just about getting over 2 feet per second velocity. So actually having a little bit more going through it would help it, actually, so.
The vegetation, the existing vegetation that's there, is there anything else that's going to be removed, or is what we see right now, the way that area will be as far as the removal of vegetation?
Oh, I guess, go ahead.
Yeah, there will be, so for now, we just went in and used like a forestry mulcher, which just takes
Rubbed it out.
small stuff, rubbed it out because the property was like not penetrable for surveying or anything like that. It was so
Yeah,
thick.
we did that.
So we left the larger trees because, one, we didn't know how this was gonna lay out, and if we were gonna be able, you know, a couple nice larger trees landed in some of the lawn areas, we would leave them. But as far as the perimeter around the property, that is as far as we're going.
Okay.
Which is that 25 or 30 foot width of that natural buffer that was there.
Okay. You'll have a landscape plan as part of the final, of the plan when you come back, correct, for the
Yes.
1% of the project type landscape plan?
Yeah, we did see the option of just putting 1% of the cost towards the town tree program. And I guess that's something we could talk about, but our idea was to come up with a landscape plan.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well put it into the property. Also signs, you're going to have a sign out at the road, I assume? Any signage? That if it's going to be part of the site plan, if you just make sure you include that on your plan when you come back.
Okay. Yep, for sure.
And then, as Joe mentioned, if you decide to do a dumpster, even if it's 1 per 2 building, you know, 1 big dumpster per 2 buildings, or whatever you might decide, just make sure you have room to show it on the plan. Snow storage as well, I think, was that part of the comments? To add snow storage to the plan? I think that was part of the, was that part of the comments? I don't remember that. Okay. Well, those are some of the comments I have and observations from the initial review.
Which unit are you building out first? Can you point to that?
So the plan was, we're gonna build this building and this building. This building would be Home of Rochester Earth, which is our site company. And then this would be the first building to start to lease out. And this would be the building, I believe, that RPZ would go in as well.
Yeah, right now, we're showing it in this building. It could go to either one.
Okay.
So whichever one you want.
Yeah, so there would be that, and then the plan is, as we see the demand and as this starts to lease out, we would build the next building and kind of do it in phases. But, yeah, this one would be ours, and then this one would be the first one available for lease.
Okay, thanks.
Just one comment. This appears they're going to need more asphalt, particularly in front of many of these buildings still. You're showing parking spaces, you're showing handicap parking spaces. It's, to me, only feasible if you have asphalt. So.
This is, I think, the paved surface,
Mhm.
and the rear of the building, where the overhead doors would be, and the storage would be stone. And the reason why, so a lot of these projects, I feel like they're becoming more and more common. I think I've seen a similar one on Buffalo Road near West Side Drive. It looks like a pole barn with just some overhead doors with a man door next to each overhead door. But there's one in Brighton, and they all have the overhead doors on the front, which means everything's kind of parked up in front of these buildings. So we had the idea of putting the overhead doors in the back so that when you look in here or drive in here, it's all kind of clean. You wouldn't see any trucks or trailers or anything like that. And so yeah, this would definitely all be paved where the handicap spots.
Yeah, I understand. I still think you need like asphalt over to your building, building 1, in the front, but not the back. If you're going to show handicap spaces, you're going to have a hard surface to stripe.
Yeah,
I hear you. So
And
maybe
then,
that's a good,
I
that's a
think
good
buildings
point.
3 and 4, you got to take another look at as well. That's all I have.
Yep.
Yeah.
The biggest concern I have with this is that we put in the conditions that there be absolutely no outside storage, pallets, equipment, because this has the potential of being a real mess.
Did you foresee or did you envision outside storage?
So I did a little bit of research after our last meeting on the outside storage, and I really think for this project to work well, it's going to need some sort of outside storage, but definitely with very strict guidelines. They're going to have trucks, they may have trailers or equipment, and then possibly even some building materials. I think those would be maybe the two main things that would kind of be desirable for the people to store. So just with doing some research, I've kind of come up with that, and we would just lease this out. So that's why myself as the owner would be able to, control this. And the idea is that this complex is nice and neat and maintained, and there's not stuff accumulating. So the idea would be that any truck, trailer, equipment that are stored are used daily and like for daily operations, meaning if there's a truck or trailer that hasn't moved in 3 months, then that wouldn't be allowed to be stored outside. And then as far as materials go, I was hoping to allow stored materials, but it would be for active job sites only, because I see our yard, and when we do a project and we have a little bit of pipe left over from one, we store it, or we have a catch basin or some manhole covers from another project, it starts to accumulate, and there's no way of having that stuff outside and organizing it in a way where it looks nice. So my plan for that would be that anything stored would be for active job sites. So, and then the other idea was to kind of leave an open-ended gray area, just kind of saying that no outdoor storage use shall be conducted on the site without the approval of the owner. And, and then just like vehicles, equipment, building materials, like long-term storage would not be permitted. It would have to leave. That's what I'm proposing, and I'm absolutely open to hearing what you guys have to say, for ideas on how to try to accommodate them, everything.
And there would be a gate at the entrance, so, entrance would only be allowed by people that had the code and were paying lease people. So it's not like anybody can go in there and just drop stuff off.
So, Paul brings up a good point. We see these yards, and that's exactly what you're describing is what happens. They have a leftover piece from a job they might need a year or 2, 3 years from now, so they throw it out there, and the weeds grow around it. And before you know it, looks like you have a dump back there and not really a storage area. So if you have designated storage areas for temporary storage for projects that are in process, and if they have extra materials, I mean, for a site like this, I think it's reasonable to think we're probably going to need some sort of outside storage. But we gotta be able to know that it's gonna be controlled and not look like a junkyard with 15 different businesses with 15 different types of stuff that's left over from whatever project they may have had, whether it's roofing or siding or piping or whatever the case may be, piles of stone.
Yeah,
So
exactly. A tree company, a landscape company, and
Right.
there's logs accumulated.
So, and we always look for whatever way you could screen that with obviously landscaping, so that's why, landscaping, if you plan on doing outside storage, would be critical, at least from when you're driving by, looking in. We would want people to be able to see buildings, but not all the storage that may be behind them, so maybe there's a certain area where people have to store stuff behind buildings, and then the whole roadway gets landscaped in such a way that you don't see it.
I think you've got to put them on the plans, like we've got. If this was a single building that he was going to build and he said, I'm storing stuff back here, we'd still want him to show us on there where he's going to store materials, what materials they are, how he's storing them, and is there a fence and is it gated, right? So, I think, unfortunately, you've got to look at that for this whole development right now. And the other thing is you don't have space for it in some of these buildings. You're going to have people blocking your parking or blocking these loading zones or blocking the corners. And now you're in, these are lanes of roads that need to be open for fire access, for security, safety, all the above, right? So I think you've got to take a look at where you think you want to have that. And I appreciate what you said and how you're going to try to manage it. I think that gets a little sticky because you're the owner now. You may not be the owner later, don't take that the wrong way. And you can also have 32 tenants here. So I think that's a really risky thing for us to just, leave up in the air collectively.
Right. Yes, and I don't know how to specifically condition that, but so we'd love to see if you have a way to put designated storage areas on your site plan, so that we know that that's where you're going to designate. If somebody rents that space out and they figure, I need 80 by 200, but if I can store all my junk outside, I only need 80 by 100. So if they see that they can't do that, or if at least we see it's going to be limited storage and we know where it's going to be, then we can deal with it. Down the road, it gets to be a mess. So if you could add that to your plan, so that we can see exactly what you intend on doing or how you intend on managing that, that would be helpful for any approvals down the road. Thank you. Anything else, Paul? Side table, anything?
A couple of questions.
Sure.
So you mentioned, in the conversation that it was going to be gated, but I don't see any fencing and gates on the site plan. So would you be fencing this property at all, or just putting the gate?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Okay, earlier you mentioned that this site was going to be gated, but I don't see any gates or fencing on the site plan.
will you be fencing it in?
I'm sorry, I'm still not hearing you. I think my hearing aids got wet. Go ahead, say it again.
All right. Will you be, earlier you mentioned that the site would be gated. I don't see any gates or fencing on the site plan. Will you be fencing it?
Oh, no, not the whole thing, I don't think.
No,
Just-
definitely gated, so that, you know, only people who are allowed to be there are gonna be able to pull in. But as far as fencing the whole thing in, putting the fence along the back, where the pond is, we have the railroad tracks, I think that's pretty safe.
Yeah.
Buffer,
That was part of the idea with leaving, the vegetation in, and then really, I mean, it's a good point. We should show the gate on the plans, make sure that's called out, and
But yeah, you need, if you're going to gate the site, you have to provide a lockbox or something that the fire department can use to go on the site if
Right.
nobody else is there.
right,
Fire.
yep. Yep.
Another question is, what's the smallest unit that you would put in one of these buildings that somebody could lease?
the smallest would be like one overhead door bay, probably, so these are 80 by 100, and if we were to put a wall down the middle, probably like 20 by 40, I would say 800 square foot.
Okay, so that's pretty small. Like I mentioned to Bob when we talked to him this afternoon, most of these type of facilities generally have a bathroom and some type of an office in the space. That's pretty typical for all the ones that I've seen. One thing that would be helpful, I'm not sure in your calculations, is just basically coming up with an estimate and showing the bathroom locations and stuff like that for the maximum number that you would possibly anticipate there to make sure that
Yeah.
your pump station, everything's sized properly and stuff like that.
And I can, I have come up with a number, and I can, in my engineering report, I can, at the very minimum, I can call out where those bathrooms are and how many buildings, or how many bathrooms per building as I'm estimating. And then we could, I guess, call them out on the plan if you want to.
It'd be good at least to show a little square where you expect those to be, just so you can see where you're going to be connected into the sewer and stuff. I'm assuming you're building the 116,000 square foot for yours. That's just all your space. You may just have a double bathroom in there, and that's probably about it.
Exactly, so one big building with just one big bathroom.
Anything else? I think that's about it. Thank you.
What was the construction of these buildings?
Pole barn?
Are they going to have concrete floors in them?
Yes.
Will there be drains in them?
Good question.
Floor drains?
Yep.
Probably not.
There you go.
I've been here before.
Okay.
Yeah, probably.
So you'll have to deal with that
We'll have to
in
let
some.
you know for sure, but
Right.
we're not planning on it at this point.
I would say my building must show oil, water, supply, sanitary, but I don't see it something that we need to offer to.
I mean, we can, but.
I think that'll definitely up the pump station and the capacity of the storage.
No, not necessarily. It's, as long as we put the oil water separators in, it shouldn't. But I'll have to look at that. So.
It's just going to impact the type of businesses that you can lease to. Okay, you can't, if you don't have a floor drain with an oil water separator, you can't have somebody going in there and taking apart, lawnmowers and cars and stuff like that and draining the oil.
Which if you have spills without the floor drains, you can just have a spill cleanup kit and do it that way too, and not just flush everything out of drains. So there are options, but.
Which segues to you said the backflow preventer is going to be in the one building, right? You're taking 16,000 square feet. Any of these going to be sprinklered?
If code requires.
You will be sprinklered. Code's going to require that, okay?
I mean, I am designing it for that, so that's why we.
Well, but because he doesn't know his tenancy, right? And if he's going along the line that he's going to rent or lease to tenants like himself or anybody else who's going to throw a wrench on a car or a truck or anything like that, there's a magic number that he's got to get over. I think it's 12,000 square feet. So once he's over 12,000 square feet, he's sprinkling it. And that's going to get a little weird if it's a cold storage, if it's wet, dry. It may impact the water coming in. So you're going to want to kind of think that through. That's all I have.
Yeah, so I have started the process and designed it for like 400 to 500 gallons per minute for the flow, anticipating that might be the case, so.
All right.
We will do what we
Anything
have to do.
else? That it? At this time, I'll open the public hearing. Any comments and questions from the audience? The big audience tonight. Okay, seeing none, I intend to leave the public hearing portion open as a result of the disturbance of more than 10 acres. Type 1 action, as you know, with the long form, so we'll be requesting a coordinated review. So at this time, based on evidence and information presented at this meeting, determine the application to be a type 1 action. The planning board will send notice to interested parties, declare our intent to be lead agency. Do I have a second?
Second.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
I also vote yes. So we'll get the letter out to the other agencies quickly, so we have 30 days. So by next month, you'll be able to come back after we receive all those comments. And give you the time to make any changes that you're going to make to those plans if you want us to hear the application in November again.
Yes.
All right.
Yep. Definitely.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other business? Minutes?
So just to be clear, we did that on 6, are we just tabling 7?
No, we're seeker for the whole. We can't approve one without seeker being done. So we have to have seeker done before we can do any of them, so we might as well we'll do the long form seeker.
So we can't move on 7?
Until we do seeker. Yeah. Okay. We can't do an unlisted action. Special use permit if we haven't completed the site plan, the first one.
Okay, so.
Minutes.
Point this finger right.
Yes.
What's the question?
No question.
Did you have a question on the seeker?
No.
We're square.
We're square.
Square.
Squared away?
Meeting minutes? Do you have any meeting minutes from?
Yeah, meeting got canceled.
Yeah, but the meeting, the month before that, because our meeting got canceled, so we didn't approve the
That's why I don't recall.
August. Yeah, I saw them, just don't remember it, right? So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from our August meeting.
Second.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, meeting minutes are approved for August. No meeting in September, so we don't have meeting minutes. All right. Any other business? Meeting adjourned.